Well, Brooks, are advancing forward in time in terms of the art that's here at the Allentown Art Museum, and a very familiar painting here for citizens who know Allentown history.
It is. This is a study for a mural, one of the many murals that are in the main post office on Hamilton, and it's the subject of the removal of the Liberty Bell from Philadelphia to protect it from the British invasion, and they brought it, as we all know, to Allentown to safeguard it here. And this is a view of it being offloaded in the night, in the moonlight, here in Allentown. And this is just one of many studies. It's by an artist named Gifford Beale, and it's a wonderful, if you will, tableau of our history. Very
relevant for the current period, because we're going through right now the 250th anniversary of the city, and 200th of the county. And in terms of the county, there's a lot of history not only in the city with this, but with Leaser Lake, the gentleman who was part of this. That was named after him up in Nutropoli. So a lot of Lehigh County history in this painting as well. This painting was commissioned
by the federal government during the Federal Art Project and Works Progress to the Works Progress Administration in the 30s, when artists were employed during the Great Depression.
And there's another great asset as part of the Arts Walk. That's the Browne Art School. And we have something that relates to that in the Allentown Art Museum here.
Indeed we do. Another highly familiar name, Walter Baum, who was one of the founders of our art museum. He was a well-known landscapist and painted along the Lehigh River, along the Delaware River, throughout the Lehigh Valley. And this is a particular painting called Winter Afternoon, Walter Emerson Baum. And his work has elevated in value, not only art historically, but in the marketplace. We're lucky to have at least 2 of Baum's paintings in our collection, and you can find them throughout the valley in private collections as well.
A lot of landscapes in this room, right?
Yes.
As opposed to the portraits that were in the other rooms.
And that's correct. Yes. And we have in this area art that goes from about 1850 to 1950 and into the modern section.
It's a very large area of the museum. How many people do you get in here on a normal basis during the week?
Well, currently, with our rock and roll exhibition upstairs, we're breaking attendance records. During the week, I'd say we get 200 to 300 people on a daily average. In addition, school groups, people from retirement communities, students from the colleges in the area. These last few weekends, on Sunday, we've had 600, 700, 800 people on a free Sundays.
That's great.
And on Saturday, half that many. But we're still, since the rock and roll show opened, we're at 10,000 in attendance.
Congratulations. That's great. We really have a regional asset here with this, the Allentown Art Museum, something that at one time, going back to when these paintings were made, were essentially from the city and maybe from some of the farm communities outside the city. But now you have people coming from all over the area, from the cities, from the suburbs. It's something that brings people back into our downtown. So the fact that you're trying to maintain this and advance it forward is so important. All right, Brooks, we're in one of the newer sections of the museum, something that was at one time the outside of the museum that was built on, that was dedicated from the Butts family, which is another, of course, another strong local connection. And now we're in actually the more modern section of the museum as far as the art, some local connections here. If you wanted to highlight some of these things, they're pretty extraordinary.
Well, they are. There are a number of well-known late 20th century artists, Motherwell, Rauschenberg, Will Barnett, and famous New York and figures of the late 20th century. These are paintings by Keith Haring, who is a Pennsylvania-based artist who did rather anecdotal, comical pop art, if you will. This particular subject, I won't go into an art history lesson, but it's a very amusing and striking picture that is called Untitled, but you can make of it what you wish. Okay. And then Andy Mouse over here. So this tends to be post-abstract expressionist art and gets into pop art, the period of Andy Warhol and others. And then over here on my other side are spectacular sculptures, acoustic sculptures by the artist Keith Haring, who also worked in the latter part of his life here in Pennsylvania and close to us. And these are actually sound-making. I'm not supposed to touch them, I guess, but I am. Sound-making devices. And Keith Haring is one of the best-known American sculptors of the last half of the 20th century. And we will have one of our major outdoor pieces, the gong, reinstalled in our sculpture garden as we develop it.
Were these purchased by the museum? Or were these donated?
These particular works, one was a purchase, the other were gifts of the family and a gift from another private individual. So we purchased some and we acquired them as gifts.
Do you have any that are just on loan for display, or are most of them in this, at least in this gallery and others, are they acquired by the museum and are part of a permanent collection?
That's a good question. The Keith Harings are on loan from the Haring family. And there are others that are in this collection, not necessarily in this room, but other rooms, that are on long-term loan, that we've had 15, 20 years in some cases.
Well, you really get a sense from just going through this space of the museum, from the Crest exhibit through here, just the breadth of different art that you have on display here. It's really, for someone who has some knowledge of art but not much, a real education for me as well as anybody who comes in here. It's extraordinary.
You're absolutely right. When you go from 14th century devotional imagery of the Madonna and Child to Keith Haring, you're really crossing over a lot of history of Western civilization.
It would be pretty amazing if the artists of the 14th century came in and saw that, what they would think.
They might be scared and run from the room screaming.
Well, let's not run from the room screaming, but there's another room that we definitely have to see, that there might be some pictures of people screaming, and that is the rock and roll exhibit.
That's right.
I'd love to see that. Let's go and see it.
Okay, let's go upstairs.
So we're here in the Scheller Gallery with the newest exhibit for the museum that's gotten a lot of attention. And you were talking about it before, the numbers of people that have come. And I guess that shows how important rock and roll is to the current culture and the entire community. And to start, we have a very impressive picture of an artist that a lot of people know. That's David Lee Roth.
That's it. And yes, and this is Van Halen. This particular image is probably one of the largest in the show. And it's obviously an image of David Lee Roth. And the story behind this is that each section here, about 8.5 by 11, was part of a magazine. And if you subscribed to it, you saved each section of the magazine, and over a period of a couple of years, you could assemble the whole picture if you flipped out the centerfold, whatever you call them. So this is pretty impressive. The exhibit, Rock and Roll, Who Shot Rock and Roll, comes to us from the Brooklyn Museum. It's a traveling exhibition that toured North America 3 years ago, went back to the museum, and it was so popular they sent it out again. So we're the premier second national tour venue. And from here it's going to Los Angeles and then to other museums. But there are over 170 works in here by photographers well known, like Albert Wertheimer's photographs of Elvis Presley, and some of them totally unknown, who happened to be at the right place at the right time and snapped the photo. These are some early Elvis Presley shots. Here he is performing with a guitar that's leather encased, and that is a model of it on loan to us from the Martin Guitar Museum in Nazareth. And there are other pictures of Elvis not performing on stage, but contemplating what he's going to do prior to his concert. And here, Albert Wertheimer happened to be coming down the steps and photographed a series of images of Elvis with this young fan.
Now, these weren't really the paparazzi type of pictures. These were staged by these people, right?
Some were staged and some were just captured in the moment, but not paparazzi.
Right.
And one of the purposes of the exhibition, to be brief, is the curator, Gail Buckland, said she wanted photographs, and she went through hundreds of thousands of them, that would also be works of art that could fit into the museum setting as artworks.
They truly are. We have, I guess, just like the rest of the museum, this advances forward in time as well, because you have Elvis here in video and in picture? It
does, and it also moves through time. We have images of Gracie Jones. You've got pictures of Jimi Hendrix going back in time to Wilson Pickett. And then over here you have images of some of the Beatles and Mick Jagger, Bob Dylan, legendary figures, but the images are all artistic. They're images that were memorable, and I think as you move across, you see figures who are immortalized today in our consciousness with regard not to music but to their personalities, the social change that they brought about, the political ramifications that were part of the music and lyrics, and also the whole experience of both old people like myself and my son who's 17 and enjoys this very much.
Well, there's a before and after connection with Bob Dylan and the Lehigh Valley, because he's here in some of his older pictures, but he was just performing just last year at the Coca-Cola Park. So that was a pretty recent connection with this part of the exhibit in Allentown.
Well, we've had a record attendance, and one of the things I've noticed about the Lehigh Valley since I've been here is the amount of musical entertainment that is offered up across the Lehigh Valley. It's quite impressive.
And we're hoping to have some performers at this level once our new arena is built. You need an establishment at least that size to have performance at this level. So we're hopeful to be able not only to show their important history in terms of pictures, but also have them perform here as well.
Yes.
And that would be a great experience for everybody.
Just centered in the other gallery, this is the expanded gallery of our museum, the Linny and Beale Fowler Gallery, is an original Eric Clapton signed electric guitar on loan to us from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, Ohio.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great place to finish off. It's just a striking part of the exhibit. But I wanted to take an opportunity on behalf of all my constituents to thank you for what you do here. This has been an extraordinary expansion of a very important asset here for Allentown and the Lehigh Valley. And the success of what's going to go on here, I think, is definitely evidenced by the success of this exhibit just over the last couple of weeks. I just wanted to, on behalf of my constituents, thank you, and look forward to working with you in the future and all you do.
Thank you very much, Senator Browne. And it is our hope as well that this will launch us for the future success of the museum.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that's all the time we have for this show. I wanted to thank Brooks Joyner and the staff of the Allentown Art Museum for taking us through what is an extraordinary cultural asset here in Allentown, one of the best in the state. Please come down and see the new exhibit, Who Shot Rock and Roll. It got 1,400 people here at the opening when it opened up several weeks ago, and if you see it yourself, you'll believe why it is so popular. If you want to know more about the museum, please visit our website, or anything about state government, please visit our website or come to our district operations in downtown Allentown or in the several sites around the Lehigh Valley. I want to thank you for joining us, and join us again for another edition of the Browne Report.